All right, welcome back to the space. We got the three boys here. We got Z, B-Dow, and Luck. And today we are talking about marijuana, weed in the sports industry. So as we know, Sha'Carri Richardson, my fault, recently tested positive and is now not in the Olympics. She still has the potential to go to 4x100 relays. But she's tested positive for marijuana in her system. When it came out, she said she was using it to cope with the recent news of her biological mother passing away. So she got the news, and she was in Oregon, which is a legal state for marijuana, and she used it there to cope with the loss of her mom. And then she tested positive because obviously they do drug tests with the Olympics. And yeah, so with that, marijuana in the sports industry, how do you guys feel about it? Like, do you think it's like people are overreacting with it? Do you think it's right where it should be, or do you think there should be more stricter rules with it?
I personally think that, again, people are always going to have an opinion. Just like last week's episode, like kind of like let you decide for yourself. I think because it's the Olympics, they kind of have their own rules. Like it's like kind of like, I don't necessarily know if they're a private industry, but like they have their own set of rules that they can go by. Although she was, again, in a legal state, I think that like that should have some like kind of like give on like if she did it correctly or like when did she do it. Because again, it's, did they test her in Oregon where it was legal? Because then obviously, you know, she could have been like able to do it because it was legal. But I think that if she was kind of picked out because she's been so good at the sport, I think that's what kind of like made me a little sad, because it's like she's been doing so well, and so now you test her after all this. So
I'm on a boat where I would have let her run, honestly, because really she's a beast, so let her run. It sucks that she's not going to be in the games. I would have went with what was going to happen, or what was rumored to happen, which was she did test dirty. Like, I'm not saying it should be, like, but it was in the rules. I'm not saying it should be in the rules. But so she was only supposed to get a month suspension, so she would have made it in time for the relays. So, like, she wouldn't have been able to run her singles, but she would have been able to run the relays, which would have been nice to see. But she also is missing the relays, which just suck, which makes it worse. Because at first I was like, okay, at least I get to see her run in the Olympics. Now we got to wait another, actually 3 years to see her run if she competes again. But you guys talking about how it's how she did in a legal state. Like, yeah, that does change some things, but if you do look at like a lot of job companies, even if it's a legal state, they still have it written down. If you test dirty, you test dirty, yada yada yada. It's like the same gifs of about alcohol. You know, alcohol is legal, but you come to work drunk, you go to your game drunk. But again, I think it's bullshit how she got tested dirty. I think, honestly, I'm going to say about 85% of athletes on the world does smoke weed to rehab. There's basketball players that say they smoke weed before games all their careers, and they never just test dirty, which, how? If you smoke before every game, like, it just doesn't make sense. I think they were picking her because of all the noise she made with how she stunted on them, you know? She came with her nails did, she came with her hair did. And she smoked everybody, you know. So
Smoked everybody.
So I think they were just they're just picking on her. So I think it's bullshit. She should run.
I second that, but like the reason why like I was kind of upset about it was because like, okay, like you said, she tests dirty, but like with how they're, I guess, making adjustment to the rules of like who can do what and stuff like that. There right now is a transgender like man to woman who's in the Olympics lifting, and like, you know, like obviously I'm not gonna say anything to get me canceled, but like he's a biological man, and so like for him to like lift with the women, like, yeah, like let's say he can't put up like,
he don't identify as a man though, bro.
but that's what I'm saying. So it's like you allow that to kind of like present itself
Well,
versus a weed case.
So I don't think we can dive too deeply on that, just due to the fact because we don't know what the estrogen that he was intaking, like, does it take away his testosterone? Like, if it does, then I understand it, but if it doesn't, then I'm with you, you know. But we don't know what the estrogen is doing, you know. We just know he's getting estrogen pumped in, but does that testosterone get pushed out because of the estrogen, or is it still in there? If it's still in there, why the fuck is he in? You know,
But then again, when you're testing for estrogen levels, how much estrogen do you need to have? You know, you see what I'm saying? Like when we go back to the original testing, they tested her for small traces of marijuana because I'm sure she didn't smoke a whole tree.
For that argument, you're right. How much estrogen do you need? They should really test him on testosterone levels, on how many testosterone he has in his body, because there was also another Olympic athlete that got disqualified because she had too many testosterones. Like her testosterone level was abnormal, which is, I think it's weird. She was just busting ass in relays. Again, another track runner they're coming at. Which, it's just garbage. The committee picks and choose, and it's garbage.
You bet against the house?
Huh?
Said you don't bet against the house, I guess. They make the rules.
Yeah, they do make the rules for this one. And then with Luck saying, with recovery, so there's like, obviously athletes go through pain. They bust their ass off in their events. They bust their ass on their games, and some people get injuries. So then, why are some painkillers that are like the pills and stuff that people say
because it makes money?
Addictive?
Because it makes money.
But then weed is still illegal then.
Because it doesn't. I mean, it does make money, but then
not as much.
It's hard to talk about because why the painkillers make the money is because of the addictiveness, you know. There's like, I guess you can say weed is addictive. People say they don't do weed's addictive. I don't want to hear it, like it's addictive, but the painkiller, it's easy to push out, you know. There's no scent to it. You just pop it or whatever, put in your water. I don't know how you do your stuff, but yeah, it's like, it's more like a disclosure, you know. Nobody's gonna know, like, when somebody's high, you know when they're high, and it's not because of how you see their face. It's because you smell it, you know. When you pop a pill, you don't know somebody popped the pill. It's like, you might know by the end of the night because of how he's acting, but I think it's the discreetness of it. But they both make money. It's clearly shown. Like, all the legalized state has made, like, they made billions of dollars, millions. Well, probably not billions, but millions of dollars. But it's the pharmacy, man.
The pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, they just, you can't take away those painkillers because they just make so much money, and like once they got you hooked,
Do you believe that the pills are more addictive than weed?
Oh yeah, I mean, I can't. Oh. See, yes and no, yes and no.
I think the pills are more volatile.
Yeah.
And an addiction than marijuana is.
Yeah, I think what's bad about it is, so if you talk about the addictiveness, I think the withdrawal from a pill is like crazier than the withdrawal. Like, if you were to just quit, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't know. People say weed's a gateway drug. I think painkillers is a gateway drug. So, you know, you pick and choose. I'm not part of the committee, so I can't choose.
Yeah. So I mean, even when it comes to recovery, I think I lean more towards the side of, we have so much technology to like help people recover. Like, we have cupping, we have, you know, dry needling and all that stuff, different tubs and whatnot. So I think, you know, they put so much money into that industry to where they're like, oh, you should do that instead of, you know, putting things into your body that, you know, can alter states of mind and whatnot. And I think that's kind of like a large play on what they're talking about, because when you talk about like what a drug can do to you when it comes to performing a sport, sometimes, like, let's say she pulled a hammy, right? And like, not to say obviously, like, depending on like the severity of her pulling a hammy, she can run through that and keep going and win the race, and then deal with the consequences after if she was, you know, like under the influence of whatever.
I just want to say she smoked everybody with weed lungs.
And that literally is, again, when we talk about the foundational principles of the right and wrongs and what not to do, versus they tell you your entire life, you won't be great at sports if you smoke weed.
She smoked everybody.
It's a double smoke, right?
Yeah.
She smoked and then smoked everybody.
So
she cold. That's all I'm gonna say. She cold. If she was able to do that, she cold.
All right, but then with like what the Olympic Council, I don't know what they said.
It's the committee, bro.
Committee, yeah, that's what it's called. So they said like with the question of like 18 states in the United States have legalized it. Uruguay, Canada, some other states or some other countries are going towards the direction of legalizing it. The Olympic Committee said that they're trying to do the world thing of that most countries aren't legalizing it, so they still have to keep it in there with them. So with that veering into like sports everywhere, so like should sports keep testing for this like in the United States, because like the NFL came out that they're not testing for THC anymore.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you this question: is these athletes that play in the NBA and the NFL and the Major League Baseball, are they playing a game or is this a job?
Technically it's a job, they're getting paid for it.
All right, so it's a job, right? So if I go for a job, do I get drug tested?
Depending on what job. Most jobs, yes.
So if it's their job, then I think they should get drug tested too. Only in that situation though. But again, if the whole country, I think they have the right idea. Mm-hmm. We can't make it out the thing until like the whole world agrees. Same thing as the United States. Like if the NFL, and well, see the bad thing about the NFL is, cool, you're not testing for THC anymore, right? But let's say I play for the Packers, right? I can't get marijuana because it's not legal here, right? So how does that help me rehab? So that means somebody has a rehabbing advantage over me.
True. Which
sucks, but doesn't suck depending how you look on the side of the weed. But
yeah. So
I think they're going about it the right way. It's gonna transition to it being out, although it's gonna take a few years. You know, you just need a couple old heads to get out of office, and it's just a way of thinking. You know, what you grew up with.
Your timeline's a lot faster than mine. I was gonna say it's gonna take a lot longer, only because when you think about when they find standout athletes, especially in individual sports, it's easier to attack them.
Yeah.
So like for this instance, she came showing her best self. Nails, eyelashes, hair. Mm-hmm. If she did it straight up and like just did it, like, you know, people always want to find that one thing to look at her and like, no, this is the reason why she can't. And that was the one reason why. And like, let's say she wasn't even like let's say she just smoked solely because she was like mourning, right?
Mm-hmm.
No one can say, yeah, she only smoked because of that. Like,
yeah,
once
you can't prove that.
Like, once you're a pothead, or once you put it in your system, you know, the stigma is, yeah, you smoke weed all the time. No matter how much, how little, like, for rehab, for not rehab. And then I think when it comes to, like, you're saying, like, per country, well, it's like, well, like, let's say I have a country that produces the best athletes. But if I want to get my athletes, you know, to this level, well, what is the easiest way for me to do that? I'm going to have you test all of these great ones. Hopefully we'll knock off a couple, and then my athletes slide in.
Yep, you get to knock off a couple, and then you get, it's just, you know, it's
crabs in a bucket.
Yep,
it's the marijuana bucket.
I agree. You get to knock off heads, you know, just like, oh, my athlete can't compete with that person. I'm just hoping they fuck up. I'm just hoping they don't get invited to the party. Mm-hmm. That's why they keep that rule, you know.
So then I saw something on an article that another thing the committee said that it might give athletes an edge.
Like, what, marijuana?
Marijuana, yeah. And I think that was kind of what Z was saying. Like, if she does pull a Hemi and she's already on the painkillers or on the marijuana, she can push through depending on, like you said, how bad it is.
But everybody's on painkillers already. They're not testing for that shit, so what's the difference?
That's what I was going to ask you. Do you actually believe that it's going to be an edge over other athletes that don't smoke?
No. No. Not at all, dude. Not at all. It's because...
I'm going to say depending on the sport.
I don't know.
So what sport yes, what sport no?
I'm going to say track, no, because there's no creativity in track. You have to do your job like to a perfection. Mm-hmm. You have to get out the blocks. You have to, you know, keep your head down for so many meters. You have to break a stride. Like, you have to do everything exact. and to be perfect. Where an edge in basketball, think about how creative someone who is under the influence can be to get a bucket. You're like, oh yeah, I ain't never tried this one before. And like you're saucing people up because you're now being more experimental than you normally would, like being out of pocket almost, but in a good way. And then the same thing with football. Like if you know you're terrible at going up top on someone because it's going to hurt, but if you're under the influence, that pain subsides, you stop the guy for maybe all of 2 seconds to create, a group tackle.
Yeah.
And then that gives you an edge. So it's like you're being creative with your body in the team sports, where I feel like if you're in a solo sport, like you have to do things so precise that creativity of like being under an influence is kind of know about.
I can get that. Yeah. But like, so then should we just cancel all the THC marijuana stuff? Or should we just open it up? Like, because you're saying like with team sports and like, should we just cancel it for individual sports then, and open it for team sports?
No, you gotta open it up, dude.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be tough to like do half, because then you're messing with people's money and you're messing with national pride. Because like let's say we get more Americans playing basketball than running track, and we close it for the track runners. Our basketball team's like, we finna smoke y'all, like on some like double puns. But like let's say the runners, they're like, dang, we out because we did exactly what they were doing. So it'll kind of be a pointing fingers of, wait, they could do it, but we can't. And so that's kind of a discrimination on a national level that I think will blur a lot of lines and kind of get us in more trouble, and us trying to proceed as our country is the best at this. So I think that like if we're gonna open it up, we have to open it up for all. But then right now it's closed down, so it's closed down for all. So I think like she made a choice, regardless of like how I feel about.
She owned up to it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
She owned up to it.
Like she made the choice. She owned up to it. Yeah, I did it, and she just has to live with the consequences. So it's like in the future, is she gonna do it? We don't know. But the fact that she owned it, I think that's the biggest thing. Where there's some people that get dropped and then they don't even like say anything about it. Like, like they just tuck their tail between their legs and just keep it moving.
So then with like marijuana and like stuff like that, once it gets legalized, like, and it's like in the Olympic Committee says, all right, you can smoke weed to recovery, you can smoke weed recreational and stuff like that. Do you think that's going to open it up to more like steroid type stuff? Or
no.
Do you think that's just going to end right there?
You can't take PEDs and make it to the fucking Olympics. Like they have their own subcommittee for that. Like there's actually competitions where you can take PEDs and go live, but you can't take PEDs and go compete at the highest level, because that's not you. You're using an enhancer. Like that's just not how it works.
But then some people think that then, like I was saying before, as an edge, that marijuana could be an enhancer.
It's
not to the same magnitude.
Yeah.
So it's like a little enhancer saying you won't feel.
It's not even much. Like I wouldn't even say it's like a pain relaxer, like how you're thinking of it. You think of it like a painkiller. What I'm thinking, the relaxer.
It's endorphins, right?
Huh?
It's endorphins, like into your brain.
It fires off.
Well, see, you guys are like, he's thinking like, oh, I'm high. I'm not gonna feel this pain from hitting this dude.
Well, okay.
Yeah, but I'm thinking of it as like, people aren't even taking it for that, to not feel the pain from the game. They're taking it to like lower the anxiety, because we all play sports. Before the game, we all get nervous. All our anxiety is high. So what's one of the number one things that everybody argues is the best to help with anxiety, to help with nervousness, is that's the only competitive edge I can see you getting from smoking marijuana.
That you weren't as nervous as the next.
Yeah, you're just not as nervous and not as anxious. You're more calm,
All right. So then, closing it out, with the legalization happening everywhere, do you see athletes and stuff, once it gets to like using it more, or do you think people are still going to have that head where it was legal, I can still do this on my own, or do you think people are going to open up more to it?
It won't be our generation.
It's not going to be our generation?
Nah.
Next one?
It'll be like 2 generations down after us, because if you think about it, it's like prohibition for the alcohol. That
True.
was outlawed, and everybody's like, oh, don't do that. And like, look at it now, dude. Like, you got the Olympics promoting alcohol. Like, that's why everybody's getting the Olympics committee crap, because it's like, oh, you can't smoke weed, but you're promoting. You have alcohol commercials, you know, alcohol ads. But yeah, it'll be a couple generations, dude.
And I think even, like, to answer your question, like, in those couple generations, I still think it'll be 50-50, where, again, like, my thing is, like, if I know my lungs, so if I were to consume something that would, you know, affect my lung capacity, I know that would hurt me in a sense of competing at the highest level.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it.
Where someone who can do that and still compete at the highest level, they will. Like,
Yeah.
So I think it's very subjective. And it's kind of like teacher's own when it comes to that, especially in the future. Because even now, it's like, you know, we don't all like the same stuff. We don't all do the same stuff to prepare for a game.
Mm-hmm.
You might listen to Screamo. I don't think you do, but let's just say you do. Let's say I listen to smooth jazz. Like, those are two different,
Mm-hmm.
you know, ways to lower anxiety or get us ready for that thing. And I think marijuana will be the same in the future. And I won't even say near future, because we got some time.
So you think longer than 2 years?
I think longer
For
than
what?
15.
Well, I said 2 generations.
Oh, 2 generations. My bad. That
You,
one's
you
over.
heard 2 years? Damn.
Well, for it to be legalized.
Oh, legalized world in the committee? Nah, not 2 years. Hell no.
Okay.
I said when the old heads get out the office.
Okay.
Yeah. When the old heads get out the office.
So 10 plus.
10 plus? All right.
When my kid's ready for the Olympics.
All right. So then wrapping it up, she smoked and then smoked them. We out.